Well, we are now live on YouTube, and we're recording the meeting as well.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Okay, thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the meeting, full town council meeting on Wednesday, the 5th of August, 2020, held by Zoom. Agenda item number 1, minutes of the last meeting. To receive and consider or adopt otherwise the minutes of the meeting of the council held on Wednesday, the 1st of July, 2020.
Yeah, I'll move it, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, page 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So we've had that moved. Do we have a seconder for that, please?
Yeah, I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favour, please use your virtual hands. That's carried. Thank you. You lower your hands. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 2, to note apologies.
We have apologies, Mayor, from councillors Blackburn, D. Brooks, who may attend late, Bay Brooks, Hinton and Empson.
Okay, thank you. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that he's just running slightly late. I think Councillor Clapton is going to try and, I think he's running a bit behind. I think I've seen a message somewhere. Okay, agenda item number 3, to receive declarations of interest. Councillor Dan Kirk.
Apologies, Mr. Mayor, my hand was still raised from before.
Okay, Councillor Kirk, thank you. Agenda item number 4, public participation. Residents of Skegness are invited to send questions by email about any item on the published agenda to arrive at info@skegnesscouncil.org.uk no later than noon on Tuesday, the 4th of August. These will be published with the minutes together with the council's response. Any comments relevant to the council's decision will be read out during this item, but limited to no more than 1 per resident, and a total of what can be achieved is 15 minutes, chosen in accordance with the order received.
There are no questions relating to the council's agenda.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say that when it comes to the payments, I shall be blanking out the screen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 5, the Town Mayor's announcements and correspondence. I'd like to thank the Deputy Mayor for attending an event on Friday, the 31st of July. Councillor Carpenter attended the opening of the Vintage Fair, where he accepted a cheque for £500 as a donation to the Mayor's charity. So I'd like to thank you, Councillor Carpenter, for that, and to the Vintage Fair.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And on Saturday, the 1st of August, I opened the Wonder Circus in Skegness for the start of its 2020 summer season. And may I say what a pleasant surprise I was. Everything was safe, and they had everything in place, and a good night was had by all. So it's good to see them back for this year. So that's that one for agenda item number 5. Agenda item number 6, a schedule of payments for approval. List of payments and bank reconciliations attached. Councillor Dennis. He's got his hand up still, but I think he's left the room. That's okay. Councillor Danny Brooks.
Yeah, just apologise for being late turning up.
No problem. We had your apologies in. Can Councillor Edgington and Saxon turn the microphones off, please? Okay, schedule for payments approval, list of payments of the bank records. Any questions? Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, I'll move them.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
I'll move on, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favour, please raise your virtual hands. That's carried. Thank you. If you lower your hands. Agenda item number 7, councillor questions to the Mayor, none received. Agenda item number 8, questions to comments from Lincolnshire Police representative. Councillor Anderson had the question. Would you like to speak on this, Councillor Anderson?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I think the clerk has got some correspondence from the police representative, and I'd like to comment after he's commented on the comments sent through. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Edgington.
I've got no comments to make, Mr. Mayor. Sorry.
Okay, you've got your virtual hand up. That's all, Councillor. Thank you.
Yes, sorry.
Town clerk, please.
Right, Mayor, I've received a response from Inspector Barnsley. He's defined this into victims and suspects and offenders. In the victims columns, those that have self-defined ethnicity are the following: 9 as Asian Indian, 1 as Asian Pakistani, 2 of Asian from an other background, 2 from other black background, 2 from white and black Caribbean, 8 from white and Asian, 2 from any other mixed background, 20 not stated, 1 from other ethnic groups, 26 white British, 4 any other white background, and then there's another 9 which is not categorized. In terms of the victims, the suspects, those were the victims. In terms of the suspects or offenders, there is 1 from any other mixed background, 12 not stated, 26 white British, and 1 white from other background, and 6 again not categorized. In response to the number of arrests, she said that not all investigations result in arrests, as it may be that a voluntary interview takes place. There has to be sufficient evidence available for a suspect to be identified and spoken to. Sometimes this is not possible and a suspect may not be identified. Police take these allegations very seriously and a thorough investigation will take place. In response to the issue of support, apparently there is support available from Victim Links. This is the service put in place by the police and the Crime Commissioner to provide victims with information, advice and support, including onwards referral to a specialist coping and recovery service. So that's the response that I've had from Inspector Barnsley.
Okay, thank you, Town Clerk. Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First and foremost, can I thank the town clerk and the deputy town clerk for helping me to get the answers from the Lincolnshire Police. It's been quite an ordeal to get the answers from them, and yes, and we've got them at the last minute, or the town clerk obtained them from the police at the last minute. I've done a quick calculation, Mr. Mayor. 86 people in Skegness actually have a hate crime put against them by other members of the community. That's 1.5 per persons per week is subjected to hate crimes across Lincolnshire, across Skegness, not just Lincolnshire. And a population of 22,000, 1% of the population in Skegness are BAMEs. That is quite a considerably high amount of numbers of people that are BAMEs in Skegness. I have to say I'm disappointed in some of the response by Lincolnshire Police. As I know, the answer to arrests wasn't forthcoming because it's quite vague in the responses what the town clerk has said. So we don't know the number of arrests that I asked for. but I will come back and ask for that specifically. But I'm also glad, as we as a town council, and we're going to actually clarify that later on in the agenda by saying how inclusive we are and to combat discrimination and these awful crimes in Skegness and not deal with partners that actually encourage this to happen. The other question about victim support. Victim support is rather sparse. Going through victim support quickly, you are referred to your GP and your GP refers you on from there. So all you're getting is just a referral, and we all know how long it takes to get NHS treatment, and I'll save it for now.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Claxton, can you turn your microphone off, please? Councillor Claxton, just getting some feedback from there.
Mayor, before anybody else speaks, I just wanted to say that I have contacted the inspector. I think it's a little bit unfortunate that that she's come into post just when we've gone through a time of great disruption for the council and obviously for the police as well during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I suggested that she meets with myself and the Deputy Town Clerk early in the autumn to discuss and perhaps bring her up to date with how things have operated with the inspectors in the past. I don't think she's had the benefit of the handover that the previous inspectors had, and I think it would be useful for that to take place. And also in terms of actually being able to build a good working relationship with the police, which we have had in the past with other inspectors. And I think that she's come back to me and she welcomes that that request.
Okay, thank you, Town Clerk. Councillor Danny Brooks, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just information. The lifeboat page, Billy's lifeboat page has gone off, so he's had to go. So
Sorry, I can't quite hear you, Councillor Brooks. Sorry, what was that again? Sorry. Councillor Brooks, I couldn't quite make that out. Sorry, it disappeared. I heard something about the lifeboat going out, so I think that Councillor Brooks has been called away. I think that's what that must be.
Can you hear me, Mark? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now, Councillor Brooks. Sorry.
Yeah, it's Councillor Billy Brooks. The lifeboat's page has gone off, so he's had to go.
Okay, thank you.
All right, mate. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, agenda item number 9. Reports from the council representative to the outside bodies is attached. Connect coastal reports provided by Councillor Ty. Would you like to speak on this, Councillor Ty?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, you can see that there's quite a lot still going on with the connected coast. There was a meeting with Janet Stubbs and Councillor Adrian Benjamin over at Mablethorpe. I must admit that Mablethorpe appear to be just slightly in front of us with getting things done. We seem to be falling apart behind a bit. But there's quite a lot going on, and today we've received some good news, and that is that Lincolnshire County Council have stated that the Lincolnshire Coastal Transport Scheme will be extended. So Mablethorpe, Skegness are going to get more transport, which is a good thing.
Okay, thank you, Councillor.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Dennis, please.
Yes. Councillor Ty, what makes you say that we don't seem to be doing our job? What brings you to that? How do you evidence that conclusion you've made?
Well, I evidence that by just reading the reports that Mablethorpe just appear to be just in front of us. They seem to be having quite a few meetings. So that's what I evidence.
Well, I do assure you, Councillor, that I'm on the phone 5, 6 and 7 times a day to the chairman of the board and the deputy chairman of the board and to Janet and to Adrian. So you're talking out your bum, mate. Sorry.
I think
Maybe, okay, something.
we are, a bit of order there, Mr. Mayor, please.
Yeah. I think you should be taking this up together and not doing this online. And any comments like that. We are all entitled to our views, but we don't need to any nonsense like that.
Never mind nonsense like that, Mr. Mayor.
Excuse me, Mr. Dennis.
Never mind you this, Mr. Mayor, but you have plenty to say. No. You have plenty to say. Now, somebody makes an accusation, you don't do things like that, Mr. Mayor. I do apologise. Okay, but you do not do that because I find it very irksome when we're working our socks off here and somebody makes a statement that's totally unevidenced. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Dennis. Thank you for your report, Councillor Ty. Agenda item number 10, reports by district and county councillors. Attached. LCC July report provided by Councillor Carl Messi.
Mayor, I believe that Councillor Kirk, Steve Kirk, wishes to speak on the last item.
Sorry, Councillor Kirk, sorry about that.
No problem. No, just for clarification, I sit on both place reference group, both the Mablethorpe and the Skegness, and there is definitely clarity where both groups are in the process. Now, Mablethorpe are having a lot of meetings outside of that process, so a lot of chats, a lot of meetings up, a lot of other discussions, which is perfectly fine, but certainly within the timescale that Councillor Ty is aware of. You know, I can assure everybody that Skegness and Mablethorpe are on par, and we will both be making our submissions at the same time.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Kirk. Councillor Danny Brooks. Councillor Danny Brooks.
Can you hear me, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, we can hear you now, Councillor Brooks.
I think what Councillor Ty is saying is poignant. If Mablethorpe are having loads of meetings and we're not, why are we not being told this? We have a council representative that sits on the board and he should be being informed as what's happening. If people are having conversations with each other, then they should be informing our representative. No matter what anybody says, he's the council's representative. If you're not informing him, we don't know. You might know, might be secret to you, but it isn't to us, and we don't know.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Brooks. Councillor Dennis.
Excuse me, can we have clarification? Because I can't quite understand what on earth Danny Brooks was talking about then.
Can we just let Councillor Dennis has got his hand up? And then we'll come back.
That was exactly what I was going to ask, please.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dennis. Councillor Brooks.
Okay. What I'm saying is, if Councillor Ty is saying that Mablethorpe are having more meetings than us, and Councillor Dennis is saying, no, they're not, because I'm ringing up, etc., etc., why is Councillor Dennis not ringing up then with what's been confirmed in their private conversation on the telephone with the council's representative, who is to inform us what's going on? Or is it a secret? That's what I'm asking. Mablethorpe are well informed. I know this because I've spoken to Tony Howard, and at times Skegness feels, district councils feel also that they are not being fully informed. We've selected Councillor Ty to be our representative, and he is not feeding anything back to us. That's my point.
Thank you. Councillor Kirk, did you understand that?
I did, yeah. There's a little bit of confusion there. Councillor Ty is our representative on the town's board. The gentleman you're talking about in Mablethorpe is on the place reference group, which Councillor Dennis is on the place reference group. So if you want to know anything that's going on in Skegness, ask Councillor Dennis because he's in charge of it. But a lot of the stuff that Councillor Dennis is doing doesn't go up to the board, so Councillor Ty wouldn't know about it. So not every conversation that the place reference group's having, either Mablethorpe or Skegness, gets reported back to the board.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Kirk. Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, we need to stop the squabbling because at the end of the day, okay, I want to see delivery here and actually get some regeneration in Skegness, which we desperately need for our community. And to be honest, I've asked Councillor Dennis on numerous telephone conversations I've had to find out what is actually going on, because I don't know what's going on. I can guess, but I don't know what's going on because there hasn't been any consultation as such. And that's not his fault. That's the way that the makeup's been made. And it's completely, and it has, to me, told me personally what's going on and what bids are being put up to the board. And, you know, if I am asking what's going on, then the community should be informed of what's going on. And that's not Councillor Dennis's fault or Councillor Ty's fault. That's a communication issue, again, with East Lindsey District Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Danny Brooks. Councillor Danny Brooks.
Yeah, if I've misunderstood the thing, I do apologise to Councillor Kirk and Dennis. It's just that I don't
Dennis.
know anything that's going on.
Oh, sorry. We're in some communication. Councillor Dennis.
I apologise for any confusion. Councillor Anderson rings me up and I tell him. He asks me questions, I tell him. Every time I speak to somebody, I'm not going to ring our representative. Tony Ty, I'm on the end of the telephone. You never pick the phone up to me. All you have to do is pick the phone up and I'll report you to what I'm doing 24/7. All you have to do, my friend, is pick up the telephone. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dennis. Councillor Steve Kirk.
Yeah, well, if I may, there's a few things that are actually in this report, the report we got in front of us from Martin, that I think are worthy of mention. One, I'm sure Councillor Anson will be pleased on, is the new FE provision in Skegness. So that's Grimsby College. Sorry, what they're called? It's not Grimsby College, is it? Anyway, I do apologise to Grimsby College because that's not your correct title. But yeah, they're looking to have a campus in Skegness, a big campus with industrial links as well. So there'll be some like incubator units there. So academia can actually join with business. So that's really positive. But that's not been consulted on yet because it hasn't been worked up. So these are some of the conversations that are going on outside of the meetings. So that's being worked up. We had a lovely one that's been thrown in by Mark Jones, our Police and Crime Commissioner. They would like to turn the old Magistrates Court into a police training college. So that's very, very positive as well. It won't necessarily mean we'll have more officers on the street, but certainly while they're training the officers around town, that might be quite nice. And, you know, it'll be nice having that facility in Skegness. Other things that are being worked up at the moment in this area, I think, well, there's quite a few. There's a big scheme of work going on about the bowling greens and the southern foreshore. Hopefully be able to go public with that next week. So those are the sort of things that are going on. But, you know, I do need to make it clear, and this isn't anybody's fault. It's just that so much work is having to happen so fast. A lot of these discussions actually happen when 3 or 4 people meet together. And just to correct Councillor Anderson, it's actually the town's board who are in charge of doing the consultation, the communication, and they haven't actually got anything to consult on yet. These projects are still coming forward from the place management groups, and when they've got them, then they'll consult with the public. There is a whole consultation plan there, and had I thought better, I would have shared it all with you. So my apologies, because I could have given you a copy of the timeline that they're working to and when the consultation will take place. So there certainly will be consultation. There's professional companies have been involved in that, and it will take a lot of different forms. So some of it will be face-to-face, but some of it will be using social media and everything. So there is a lot going on, and the meetings that people are having, and I'll just explain that once more, is because so much needs to go on outside of these formal meetings because there's so much to get done. And we're looking to make this big submission for both Skegness and Mablethorpe in October, which may seem a long way away, but you know, what is it, 12 weeks, something like that. So I just hope that puts everybody's minds at rest. Everybody's working really, really hard. Nobody's doing any deals behind the scenes. Everybody's just trying to get their get the proposals as solid as they possibly can before they consult on them.
Thank you, Councillor Kirk. And you was correct at the start. It's Grimsby Tech College, so you was correct. Councillor Ty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to thank Councillor Kirk and Councillor Dennis for their chat on today. I will be ringing Councillor Dennis on a regular basis. I just wonder why
Sorry, councillor Ty, you've broken up. If you-
Did you,
We didn't hear any of that, councillor Ty, sorry.
I was just wondering why 2 days ago, the connected board was cancelled on that day and it's put back to next week sometime. Could you tell me why that was cancelled?
And that question is to councillor
Dennis.
Councillor Dennis. Councillor Dennis, can you answer that for us, please?
No, I can't answer it. I don't know why.
Okay, thank you. So you can't answer that one.
I
Councillor Ty.
understand, Mr Mayor, that the
Yes, councillor Kirk.
board, which councillor Ty is referring to, was cancelled by the chairman, and she cited there was so much paperwork for everybody to read. It wasn't fair for them to only have the paperwork for a couple of days.
Okay, thank you, councillor Kirk. Does that answer your question, councillor Ty?
Well, not really, because I had heard the same, that it was through the amount of paperwork we've got to go through prior to the meeting. And I'm not even privy to that paperwork, which it sounds a bit odd to me. The agenda and the paperwork doesn't arrive prior to the meeting. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson?
Yeah, thank you. If it helps, Councillor Ty, Chairman and Vice Chairman, as you probably are aware, those members, like Councillor Kirk, have agenda setting meetings where they discuss what's on the agenda in private with officers, and then before it goes public, and that's called agenda setting meetings with papers sent out. So that's probably what's happened because of the amount of paperwork that has been or going through. The question, and I thank Councillor Dennis and Kirk for highlighting some of these issues, because this is big for Skegness. We're talking about a £25 million bid here for Skegness. And of course, I'm excited about FE provision, because I've been banging on about this for 29 years as a councillor in Skegness, both on the district and the county, and more formally on Skegness Town Council. So it is important for us having our post-16 kids travelling throughout Lincolnshire on buses and God knows what else to get proper FE provision. It's not fair spending 14, 15-hour days for our 16-year-olds when they come out of education, going and spending a day. We don't do it as adults, but we expect our young people to. The point I also want to raise is FE provision. Are we talking about adult education or people of my age, or are we just talking about 16 to 25-year-olds? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, councillor. Councillor Steve Kirk?
Yeah, the actual FE provision was for the full gamut, Councillor Anderson. So there was no upper age limit, so there could be anybody there, and it was basically from the new T levels all the way through to a degree. So that's very positive. Another positive, which I should have mentioned, which is also in negotiation, is at this campus, as you'd expect, there could be quite a large car park. So we're trying to negotiate that could actually be the basis for a park and ride, which again is something the town has been asking for many, many years. So I say lots of stuff going on, Councillor Anderson, but this, I say a lot of it is just ideas still, and the details are yet to be thrashed out.
Thank you, Councillor Kirk. Councillor Anderson?
Yeah, just thank you again. I just remind Councillor Kirk, okay, that again, we're spending public money. That means everybody's money. And when it comes down to scrutiny and accountability and transparency, okay, which Councillor Danny Brooks raised, that has to be part of the process.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Dennis?
Yeah, also to tag on to what Steve's saying as well, there'll also be some small incubation units for small businesses as well to start there. And another tag at the tail was, and part of my committee, I've got the headmaster of the academy on board for his guidance and help. And another one is our younger people and a bit older people work during the summer, and we need that staffing in the summer. And this college is going to hopefully be able to educate these kids and these adults in the winter time when there's no other work. But as far as consultation, everything's going to be consultation. Everyone will go to consultation. But we're trying to get a plan, and we're trying to factor all this stuff in. So we've got some vision moving 20 and 30 years hence. And we're trying to build all this. And there's so much paperwork. There's so many guidance notes. I mean, page after page, because you'll get one page of notes, and there's probably 8 or 9 different different websites to go through, page after page, and it really does, it swallows you up. And when you're trying to manage that, as Sarah Louise is managing Fairburn Eggs, and we've got Chris Barron, you know, doing the best reporting. I'm trying to run my business. Steve Kirk's trying to run his business. It's a balance all the time to try and get all this done. But hours and hours we spend talking, having a look, sieving through and speaking. And that's the only thing. And then we'll get something to put in front of you. And hopefully we'll have got this money. At the moment, it's nobody's money because we haven't got it. And we're not hoping for 25 million. We're hoping for 35 million. We're hoping to go above that. We're really aiming for the stars here to try and get as much funding as we can in place. And it's something we're very, very passionate about. And that's why I get a bit snappy when people think, you know, when people just say things, you just need to talk to me. I'm on the end of a telephone. People speak to me. Councillor Anderson's what particular? He picks the phone up and we'll have a talk and we'll talk things through and we'll pass on. And that's how we get on. We might be opposite sides of the house, so to speak, but we get on so well because we've got the basic thing is we've got this town that we want to help. And that's what's important to both me and Councillor Kirk and Councillor Anderson and all the councillors here. That's what we need to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dennis. Okay, agenda item number 10 then. No questions on that. Agenda item number 11. Agenda item number 11. Management committee meetings to follow. I think you've received copies of those via email this afternoon.
Mr. Mayor, we've missed out 10. We got backtracked to item on the town plan. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Agenda item number 10. Reports by district and county councillors. The LCC July report. I thought we'd read this out. Councillor Mason, Councillor Kirk. Councillor Dennis, please. I think he's left his hand up from last time.
I have, Mr. Mayor. Apologies.
No problem. Anybody wishing to speak on agenda item number 10? Any questions? Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I apologise. I kept my button open, didn't mute it. Yeah, schools returning to work. Sorry, schools returning to work. Children returning to schools. I note and I have read what has been said, but I am concerned of how safe are the schools and for children returning to work to school. Sorry. And also, more importantly, staff returning to work. I know that schools, there's a lot of academies rather than LEA schools, so they actually put in the risk elements themselves, but there is government guidance regarding this. And I know, and I've been asked, and you must have been, Mr. Mayor, by numerous parents asking on how safe is the schools for children to return to in September, and also school transport. How safe is that transport for children attending schools, whether they attend in buses, whether they attend in minibuses, or they attend in taxis, or anything like that? How safe is that transport? That's what's being asked to me by parents and must be asked to every other single councillor on Skegness Town Council. Thank you.
Well, if I'm honest, Councillor Anderson, I haven't been asked that question once. And on for the safety of the children on the buses, I think if they're going with the government guidelines, I do believe it's probably something Councillor Carpenter can help us with, but I do believe that children aren't required to wear a mask on the bus if they're under 11. Can Councillor Carpenter just answer that one for us?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I also believe children under 11 don't have to wear masks. At the moment, there is a limit on how many people can actually travel on a vehicle, but they are looking at that to lift those restrictions in the near future, I believe, what I'm hearing, because obviously I'm on furlough at the moment, so I just hear through the grapevine. But I hear what Mark is saying about schools. My daughter teaches special needs in Lincoln, and she's just actually returned after a bout off school, rushed in, thinking she'd actually caught this COVID. And that was at a school in Lincoln. Fortunately, it wasn't, and she's home now and she's fine. But it is a worrying time.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Carpenter. Councillor Dan Kirk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to, as community leaders, it's our job to, give the correct message with regards to any community member asking questions directly. I'm also a governor at a local LEA school, and I know from my own personal experience, the communication between the school and LCC with regards to the health and safety of COVID mitigation is incredibly stringent. I am 100% confident that in the school that I represent as a governor, it's as safe as it possibly can. Now, just to reassure the whole community and the members of the public listening, there have been 4 fatalities of children in the UK throughout the tens of thousands that's occurred. So for children, the risk is, let's put it into perspective. The risk of mental health issues and the long-term issues with students being out of the school setting is far greater than the risk to COVID. You know, the risk with safeguarding and things like that is far greater than the risk to COVID. And it's our job as community leaders to be imparting that message that the risk, it's not necessarily the risk to children. There's a slightly higher risk to the teachers. However, infection rates in schools have been significantly lower than other sectors. So the message is, in my opinion, that we need to be getting back to school as soon as it's we're able to follow the government guidelines. And I am 100% confident that it is safe as possible in the current situation. Yes, there's been 4 fatalities of children, but they have been children with existing medical conditions. There have been no fatalities of children that have not had pre-existing conditions. So safety for our children is virtually as low as I could, a trace, let's say, and it's our job to impart that same message to parents. The more students we get in, the more safeguarding can be done, the more assistance and more mental and health and well-being, as well as their educational benefits.
Thank you, Councillor Kirk, for your input on that. Hopefully that'll help. Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Dan Kirk, for your reply, which was really good. I got no qualms about what you say about children. They need to go back to school, for their mental health and education. Fully support that. What concerns me is to make it safe, as possible, not only for the children, but also for the staff. But children, as we know, and we've been told this, if those of us who follow the medical advice of what we've seen by the UK's medical officer, Professor Whitty, has said children pass on COVID to older people. Now, older people like me, look after their grandchildren while their parents work. That is the issue that we should be concentrating on. If a rise in COVID happens in a school, as what has happened in Aberdeen today, with 25 people coming down with COVID, that could be passed on by children to a driver, a bus driver, a taxi driver, a PA, who therefore goes and mixes in the community, goes shopping, goes home, mixes with their family, mixes with their parents, grandparents, or whoever, an extended family, or the opposite end, you have grandparents, as we know, picking up the children from school when they finish. These are the issues that are not being communicated to the community at large. But I fully support Dan Kirk in what he's saying about schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson.
Mayor, could I just come in there? All these organisations, the schools, the transport, everybody who's involved in this process has to undertake a COVID risk assessment and publish how they're going to manage the process. these are available for the public to view in exactly the same way that this council has published its COVID risk assessments. People can then look at these, and then, if necessary, if they feel the requirement, they can question whether or not those measures are suitable and are going to protect. So I think there is a mechanism by which the public can understand how both the children's staff and other people who are involved in the process, the transport people, how they're going to be protected.
Okay, thank you, Darren Clark. Councillor Anderson, is your hand up from last time? Sorry, I've just...
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've tried to raise this issue with one of the policy officers at Lincolnshire County Council only last week with my concerns for my constituents. I did tell her or informed her she didn't know how many taxi drivers had died with COVID across Lincolnshire. I do know that, but other councillors won't know. Fortunately, we haven't had any in Skegness, thank goodness. But she was waiting for new government guidelines, which haven't been given yet to LCC as what the town clerk has just described. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we're all aware of these ongoing advice that keep coming out every day. Some of them aren't very clear, but I think what we must keep everybody alert to the fact that what the government are saying, wear your mask where you can, and we should urge our residents, you know, to if they feel unsafe, then follow all these guidelines and wear their masks everywhere they want to wear them. If that's what they should do. I think we should stay focused and not worry and be like a rabbit in car headlights. That's all. I think we need to be positive, follow the guidelines and stay safe. Councillor Dennis. Councillor Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think it's just a matter of common sense all around. If you go out and you get in a crowd, anywhere in crowds, you just come out of it. You know, it's the people that seem to come here, the local people. You know, I went to Morrison's the other day and it worked quite well. There's no problems. People were working out, people were social distancing. When you go on the seafront, I think it's a little bit different. When you get on the seafront, you've got a few pints of beer. I think it goes out of the way. You know, Nick, my youngest lad, his fiance runs a nursery. So you know, you can't social distance kids because once they get together, they're kids. They might have their own little bubbles and things. But it's working as well. At the end of the day, we've got to get going again somehow, as safe as we can, because at the rate of knots that we're going, this country is going to very, very quickly run out of money. So it's a real balance between people's well-being and the economy, I think, and it's a very difficult path to tread. But I think everybody, if you use your common sense, you know, it's quite sensible. If you're in a room and you feel uncomfortable in that room, then leave it. But it does seem strange that you've got to wear a mask in a shop and then you go and sit in a restaurant and you don't have to wear a mask. Although it'd be difficult eating your chips through a mask, but it just seems a bit weird, I have to say, a bit odd. But we'll get there. I don't eat much anyway, so it don't matter to me, really. So, suck on me soon.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay. No more questions on that. Okay.
Mayor, can we just note the reports that were given?
Yeah, I'll move it, Mr. Mayor, that we note the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dankirk.
I'll second that, Mr.
Okay, all in favour, please raise your virtual hands. That's carried. Thank you. Lower your hands again. Are we on agenda item number 12 now? I've just ticked off. Agenda item number 12, Remembrance Parade, meeting notes attached. To approve or otherwise the recommendation from the Remembrance Working Group to hold a small act of remembrance in the Tower Gardens in the place of the usual parade for 2020 only. Councillor Dankirk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure if we've approved the management committee. If we haven't, I'm happy to propose that we adopt the management committee minutes.
That's what I was just asking. I'd mark that off. Was we still on agenda item 11?
Yeah, I'll second Councillor Dankirk, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Comment. All in favour, then raise your virtual hands. That's it. That's carried. Thank you. I do have to apologise for anybody watching these meetings, but there's hands popping all over and we do get a little bit confused, and it's like a oven in here tonight. Agenda item number 12, Remembrance Parade. As we said, to approve otherwise recommendations of the Remembrance Parade Working Group to hold a small act of remembrance in the Tower Gardens in place of the usual parade for 2020 only. Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, I'm happy enough to second it if the chairman's happy enough to move it. Thank you.
I'm happy enough to move that. Thank you. Councillor Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only thing that concerns me is it's a great idea. It really is, and it will save the day without any shadow of a doubt. The only problem I've got with it is how are you going to keep it small? How's that going to work? Because when people find out that you're having a remembrance parade or remembrance in the Tower Gardens, it will be rammed. How are you going to manage that?
We are going to man the gates. I'm going to bring Councillor Finlay in a second, but we are going to man the gates, Councillor Dennis, and only let the amount in when we've done the risk assessment. It will be monitored and they'll be counted in by communications. But I'll just bring Councillor Finlay in.
Mayor, just before we start, the working group is due to meet again on Tuesday of next week. It's waiting for the decision in principle of council tonight. It will then look at all of the details behind it to see how it can be operated safely and effectively. That piece of work hasn't yet been done in full by the working group because it was waiting for the in principle decision tonight. It would be easy to get into a discussion here, but we haven't got all of the parties here, the British Legion, etc. So I think, as I say, it's for the in principle decision. The group will then look at it in detail, and that information can then come back to council in September and possibly the following month if necessary, to explain to council exactly how it's going to work.
Okay, thank you, Town Clerk. Councillor Finlay.
Yeah, just to clarify what Steve's just Town Clerk's just said, and obviously said that Councillor Dennis's concerns. I have been in quite in-depth talks with the Royal British Legion. I have been liaising with Steve, trying to sort of cross the T's and dot the I's on a proposal of maybe a solution to the problem. So it's well on the way to looking like it's a possibility. So.
Okay, Councillor Finlay, you cut off there, sorry. And just if anybody's watching this meeting tonight, just to clarify why we are raised these issues and why we plan to do this parade, it's because the British Legion, they have no plans throughout the country to hold any parades. They are banned at this moment in time due to the COVID, and we are looking a way of working forward to still remember this special day that is on our calendar event. Councillor Finlay, you're back again.
Yeah, just pretty much what you've said, Mark. I mean, there's been a lot of talks, and I think it'll work. And I think, like I say, Councillor Dennis's concerns are amongst everybody the concerns, and that's why the idea is sort of been evolved from all three groups. Yeah. So hopefully it will resolve it to suit everybody.
I fully agree, because we did have several meetings and we all had concerns. Councillor Kirk, Councillor Anderson, we all raised concerns and we tried to tick everybody's boxes and move forward. And I think this was the best way we could. Councillor Dan Kirk, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's a fantastic idea. The fact that, as we control the land, we can then control and mitigate those COVID risks. So, yeah, I'd like to propose that the council adopts the idea in principle as the clerk has given feedback for, and to allow the working group to continue with their work to dot the I's and cross the T's. So yeah, I'm happy to propose the decision in principle. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Kirk. Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy enough to second it. I've done it twice now, but I'm happy to do it again. I'm quite excited about what we've achieved. I was concerned in previous years, and I know you were, Mr. Mayor, actually concerned about what's happened previously. But I think we can move forward together with our partners to achieving something this November under extreme difficulties that you have said and others have said that the townspeople can be proud of in remembering our fallen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Yeah, it was made quite clear by yourself and Councillor Kirk at the time, Councillor Steve Kirk. You raised issues before you had to leave the meeting. So we arranged under the meeting and came back with it, as I said, with this idea. And I think it ticks the boxes for everybody that was concerned. It really does. So we've got Councillor Steve Kirk, please.
Yeah, I just want to say, yes, I was at that first meeting and expressed concerns around the crowd control. I do think this is a Councillor Finley's idea. So well done, gentlemen. Well done, sir. I think it's an excellent idea. And because people don't realise, if you hold an event, you're responsible for the crowd. And that's the problem we're having. We know full well there are so many people in Skegness who would want to pay their own personal remembrances, their own personal tribute to those brave men and women who gave their lives for this country. So at least if we're in a controlled environment, we can keep the numbers low, and hopefully with the joys of modern technology, we'll be able to beam it live onto YouTube. So those who can't be there will be able to still take part in their own way.
Thank you, Councillor Kirk. So it's been proposed and seconded. All in favour, please raise your virtual hands. And that's carried. Thank you. Agenda item number 13, Neighbourhood Development Plan. Report and appendices attached to consider the draft plan and associated documents.
Mayor, hopefully everybody's had a chance to look at the plan. We're at a stage now where the plan is pretty much ready to go to East Lindsey District Council as the planning authority, so effectively the final stage. There was a late submission by representatives of a local landowner, and those are identified in the papers that you have. These set out potential uses of quite large stretches of land off of the A52 for residential use, a crematorium, further education, which I suspect may link with the town fund discussions, employment, specialist housing for the elderly, and tourism. Because these have come on so late in the day, if the council were to include these or want to include these areas within the plan, it would have to re-undertake site assessments. It's certainly in terms of housing, it would have to carry out a housing needs assessment, which carries quite a large cost, and which council previously said it wouldn't do because the town plan isn't the right place for the allocation of housing when the allocation is already done within the local plan. So that would be where housing allocation of land would take place, and the council would need to lobby East Lindsey District Council, as was mentioned at the last management report. An item was put in the business plan to tackle East Lindsey's view on affordable housing and housing within the Skegness and along the coastal strip. So I think that is probably for housing the best way to move forward. With the specialist housing for the elderly, there were discussions within the neighbourhood plan meetings where there were concerns that the number of the resources to support the existing number of elderly people in Skegness is simply, you know, not their GPs, etc., etc. And therefore, perhaps this specialist housing may attract additional people from that group into Skegness and perhaps make the situation even more difficult. Clearly, from the proposals that we've had, which are very, very outline, There's no indication as to how that might be overcome. There may be a section, you know, a planning contribution that's possible to address some of that, but we don't know at this point. So really, the decision for council is whether to go with what you already have in the draft plan and move that forward, or whether you want to go back, spend some more money, and have these additional sites investigated more, and if necessary, the additional evidence provided to say that they are needed. So that's where we are. As I said, council have been working on this now for quite a considerable number of years, and I think there does need to be a point at which you say, well, okay, we've heard everything up to this point, we need to actually get a plan together and move forward, and then perhaps some of these things will either happen anyway, or they can go into a future plan, or even the local plan, which hopefully this time around there'll be more consultation and more input to.
Thank you. Councillor Steve Kirk.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Well, firstly, I think our consultants have written a good plan for us, because the plan is robust and they do appear to have hit all the bases. There's a few things that I personally would like changing, but that's just down to my own personal preference. But as the clerk quite rightly says, this neighbourhood plan now has been going on for so long. Some of us were young and had long blonde hair when it started. Not me, but others. So I think we need to move it on. Regarding the first question, no, I don't think we should include that new parcel of land. For the simple reason is that's the second time that parcel of land has come before this council in relatively recent years. Last time it was for a hotel and industrial. This time it's for FE. Well, we know why that is. The clerk's alluded to why that is. We know why FE suddenly appeared there. So part of the town plan work we were talking about earlier. But I would be loath to include this, knowing full well that the local plan, which we currently have, wouldn't support it. Specifically around the housing and around the housing need for the elderly. We know that platform housing don't intend building any more properties here. And we do know already, you know, our neighbourhood plan tells us that already a quarter of our population are over 65. And we know the strain that puts on the health service, the doctors, the dentists and everything else. So I would not support including that parcel of land into our neighbourhood plan, but I would support the neighbourhood plan being signed off by this council and going to ELDC for scrutiny and for approval.
Thank you, Councillor Kirk. Councillor Dennis.
Yeah, I'd like to second Steve Kirk. I have to say, Town Clerk, it's an excellent piece of work. It's good reading. It's very informational. You know, it's a long read, I will say that, but it's a very, very good read. And it might have taken a number of years to put together, but it certainly is a good read, and it certainly makes a lot of sense. I tend to not disagree with Councillor Kirk, but I think that the planning policy and the planning policy in the country will change, and I believe that planning policy at East Lindsey will change if East Lindsey remains to be East Lindsey. But we're certainly working on it as part of planning policy to change that. But I certainly think it's now time to draw a line under it, as Steve said, the Town Clerk, and I will be happy to second this. But fellas, if you've not read it, read it. It's so informational. There's so much information in there. It really is a good read. You know, a really good read. It's very, very informational. And thank you, Town Clerk and your staff for putting it all together. Excellent piece of work. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, thank you. Can I concur what's been said? I think again, it's an excellent piece of work on regeneration and planning for Skegness. I've read from cover to cover, and I'd like to congratulate the Town Clerk and also the previous and the existing working committee in actually doing this vital work for Skegness. I agree with Councillor Kirk and Dennis regarding the late application. by Croft Masters. I'm sure that's outside the Skegness area, if I'm right, and it falls into the Croft, but perhaps Councillor Dennis Croft area. So perhaps Councillor Dennis would actually put me right or not.
It's in Skegness, Mark. It's in Skegness.
Okay, thank you. But I do think we can't, or we haven't got the time to include further investigations for this kind of work, and also duplication, which we don't need at this apparent time. You know, at the end of the day, we're masters of our own destiny here, and we as a town council, we are trying our hardest to move things on for our community, and we need a plan to do it. And this plan goes a long way in providing a better community for everyone here in Skegness, and to create jobs and industries here for our both young and old, and a better education facilities for our young as well. So, and most importantly, housing, decent housing for those who in greatest need in Skegness. And I really am pleased with the outcome of this local development plan. So I've got no hesitation in supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Danny Brooks.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Can you? I totally agree with the previous three speakers. If they'd come forward sooner, then they would have been involved in the plan. But I don't think we've got the time or the money now to revisit what we've already done. The report is fantastic. The committee and the clerk and all his team have done a wonderful job. And I just think if you're going to start re-picking it and rehashing it because someone's made a late application, then I think we could be here for years to come. So I agree. I would support this, that we crack on with it. So yeah, totally agree.
Yes, thank you. I recall the last council as well did a lot of work in this, and it's gone on, and I think it's a good plan as well. Councillor Kirk, did you want to speak? Councillor Steve Kirk.
My apologies, Mr. Mayor. I forgot to lower my hand.
Okay, a couple of others. Well, we know what we've. It's been proposed and seconded. So all in favour, please raise your virtual hands. That's carried. Thank you. Lower your hands. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 14, General Data Protection Regulations, GDPR Annual Review is attached to adopt the annual review of the Council's GDPR compliance. Anybody wishing to speak on this one?
Mr. Mayor, did you want me to present this report?
Yeah, you can do, Kate, if you would, please.
Yeah. So the majority of the work for GDPR compliance went ahead in 2018. We did the town council, a full audit of the information that was holding. And part of that audit resulted in an action plan that said, moving forward, we should have an annual review of our GDPR compliance. So that's why this report's been brought in front of you. It has been delayed due to COVID-19, but now as we move on to new tasks, the new GDPR regulations are quite embedded, so we're updating our privacy notices as necessary. They're published on the website. We have the web page informing people how to access their information. Emergency provisions were put in place when we first went into lockdown, but the move to the new offices now and the new IT system, we've got better security controls for that. So I think we're satisfied that the council is GDPR compliant. I mean, unless there's anything that any of the councillors want to bring forward. We're now doing the track and trace, keeping those details for 21 days in the cafe in line with the government guidance. So it's just to note the report and adopt the review or raise any concerns regarding GDPR that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kate. Councillor Mark Anderson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to the Deputy Town Clerk on presentation on the report. I'd like to move the recommendations. In doing so, I totally agree with the Deputy Town Clerk in what she says, but I also have to remind councillors, be careful on the information that you hold about your constituent or our constituents on databases that we hold within our computers, because if you do get caught by the information officer for holding information, the fine is extreme. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Dan Kirk, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question to the Deputy Clerk, if possible. Now, recently I have frequented restaurants and places in the town that do have a COVID track and trace register, where there is like a sheet with everybody that enters for that day, inserting their address and a phone number and things like that, which in my opinion is a significant data issue when you can see that Joe Bloggs, who visited 5 minutes ago, lives on Rutland Road or whatever that may be. That is in fact a data breach. I just want a bit of clarity on whether we're using a single sign-in sheet or a single form, which then is posted in some sort of ballot box, so it's out of the public eye. If I could have a little bit of clarity on that, that would be excellent. Because I do see that as a pending risk, and with that clarity, I'll happily second that response, that recommendation, if I hear that back. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
Yes, they are using a ballot box and individual slips that are entered into the box so that nobody else can see them. And then we are checking that after 21 days, those are removed and destroyed.
Okay, so it's been proposed and seconded. So all in favour, please show. That's carried, thank you. Agenda item number 15, council meeting dates. The report is attached. Councillor Kirk, Steve Kirk, sorry.
Sorry, I've done it again. I was reading my notes and not lowering my hand. I can't multitask. I'm not a woman.
You can. It's very difficult to do these meetings sometimes. We understand. Okay. Anybody? Any questions?
Shall I just go through it? I mean, the proposal is to change some of the dates. The August management day shouldn't have been in there because we don't normally have meetings after the council meeting at the beginning of August. You know, it's a busy time for everybody. It tends to be at a time when there's quite a bit of leave, and I won't be around to write reports or answer those anyway. The other ones are to do with council in November and December. And what I'm suggesting here is that we move both of those back the date of the management committee. We have got we've got an issue, as I explained at management committee last time, regarding the budget for next year and how we're going to tackle that. We need to have as up-to-date financial information for the current financial year as possible, and we won't have the October figures by the beginning of November, and we won't have the government's approach to local government finances by the 2nd of December. What I want to avoid is this going into January when the precept is set without a clear indication of exactly where we will be going with the budget and the precept. So really I want to be at the January meeting knowing what the likely level of the precept is going to be and what the budget is going to be for the coming year. We will be, as you know, the time scale that we've got to actually set a budget in January is very short, because that then has to go into the East Lindsey budget setting process. And so we've only got a matter of days, and obviously a concern that if there are any issues, that there won't be fully time to debate it in a single meeting in January. So that by moving those dates back, it will certainly help to have that. And of course, it is council that has to set the budget. The management committee can't do that.
Thank you. Councillor Tony Ty, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I think we would all have to agree with you, Town Clerk. I mean, we've got to relook at the budgets and look at the preset for next year. Without doubt, after this terrible year that we've had, we all know that we need to raise the thing and let's get some more money in. Thank you.
Councillor Dan Kirk.
I'm happy to propose that we adopt the clerk's recommendations, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Anderson. Thank you. Okay, all in favour, please raise your virtual hands. That's carried. Thank you. Agenda item number 16, Lincolnshire Unitary Authority proposals report attached. To consider the proposals whether to make representations. Councillor Trevor Burnham.
Sorry, I left my hand up.
Sorry, Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And yeah, this report. I'm not going to get into a dogfight for the county council or the district councils of the proposals set out by Martin Hill, the leader of Lincolnshire County Council. If you want my opinion, okay, because I've been through this process before in the 1990s when it was muted. If Lincolnshire County Council took unitary across Lincolnshire, I think we would be squeezed here on the coast, even marginalised even more, because at the end of the day, it's about grassroots in democracy and also grassroots in spending, and we know what our needs are, and we certainly don't have one of the second largest rural counties in the England making decisions what our needs for in Skegness. That's my opinion. I've been gone through this process in the 90s and it was dismissed by then the local government minister, and the two-tier system remains. What concerns me at this precise time is us, Skegness Town Council. Where do we stand on a unitary basis? Does that mean we go with the district councils and there will be just a unitary organisation within the county council? That's not been made clear. If you come, and all of us know as town councillors that we get far more feedback from our constituents in Skegness than district councillors or county councillors. They come to us. Our office is full. People make the first call to the town council rather than the district council or the county council. They are too remote from us. And, you know, at the end of the day, the recommendations is quite clear. It's saying it's recommended that council consider whether the council wishes to make any representations. Yes, we do. We need to find out what are the proposals for our existence as a town council. Are we going to get more powers? Is there going to be more devolution? Or are we just going to go with the ether and be just pushed aside? That's where that's the question I'd like to ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Edgington.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. These proposals, as advanced by LCC in conjunction with the existing unitaries, somewhat concern me, because as Councillor Anderson has alluded to, if you operate on the periphery, as we do on the coast, and everything, and all the years I've been involved in local government, the concentration of power is always towards the centre. And in the case of Lincolnshire, it's in and around Lincoln. And if you read this report from the clerk, what we have is, and what we know from what those of us on the district know from our own briefings on this, the LCC came to an arrangement with the existing unitaries,
without any sort of consultation with the districts, which is not, to my way of thinking, the right way to go about it. Because what we're talking about here is a fundamental realignment of democratic representation within the county. And I think that the districts ought to have a view on that, because as has been said by others, how does that filter down to the town and parish councils? And I think that if this report, as this report says, the districts have got a short time span to come up with their own proposals, because at the end of the day, what proposals will be accepted by the government is going to have a knock-on effect on this. So I think that this council should consider whether or not it wants to make some representations to the appropriate department. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Steve Kirk.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree entirely with Councillor Anderson. Yes, we should definitely make representation. This is Martin Hill, as we know, has written a letter to government saying he would like a unitary for Lincolnshire. And the district councils have objected in the strongest terms that they knew nothing about it until after the letter was sent. Personally, I think local government is long overdue for restructuring. When people knock on our door, or when people ring me up, or any one of us, they want to talk to somebody from the council. They don't know whether it's county council, district council, or parish council. They don't care. It's just the council. You're the council, you cut my grass verges. You're the council, you do my bins. You're the council, you fix my potholes. They see it all as the same thing. So maybe there is an argument just for a council that does all these things. I would find it very difficult if having just that one council meant that local democracy was not being served. And that would be my biggest concern. I don't care how big the unitary is, it can cover the whole of Lincolnshire for me, as long as democracy is delivered locally. If it's all delivered out of Lincoln or Gainsborough or Grantham or Sleaford or wherever, that is not local democracy. We are, and there's absolutely no doubt about this in my mind, one of the most important keys in local democracy, because we help people with their problems. Other councils actually appear to give people more problems. Now, there's some excellent work done across all councils. There's some excellent work that we do, there's some excellent work that East Lindsey does, there's excellent work the county council does. But we know the government has got to find a new way of saving money. It's skinned county and the districts, all the districts, as much as it possibly can. So it now needs to find another way of saving money. And from a government point of view, if they want to discuss a project in Lincolnshire, who do they go to now? Do they go to the county council? Do they go to the district council? Do they go to the Greater Lincolnshire Economic Partnership? It's just a horrible mess. So restructuring is long overdue. We are in quite a lucky place, I would suggest, because a lot of the things that we do, a lot of the functions we perform are statutes. They are laid down in law. So another council can't just take them over. In saying that, I don't care whether the district council disappears, Skegness Town Council disappears, Lincolnshire County Council disappears, as long as we maintain our local democracy and carry on serving the people elected. That's what matters to me. I think that's what our representation should say.
Thank you, Councillor Kirk. Councillor Danny Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, I would agree with the previous speakers. I think we need to represent. I believe that Martin Hills has only put this forward because, as Councillor Kirk has said, they've been skinned alive and they've got no more money. So they're trying to land grab whatever they can to survive. I'm all for devolution down. I've said, and that's my goal would be devolution down. I don't want devolution up. In fact, I don't think devolution up works. So giving the county council all the power, whether it's a unitary or not, 750,000 in the people that live in Lincolnshire would probably be the biggest unitary if they did it in one go. So I believe that Martin Hill is clutching at straws to save the county council. So I think we should say exactly what Councillor Kirk has said. Local people know what local people want and need. So to take it away from Skegness and even from East Lindsey, I always slate East Lindsey, but I slate Lincolnshire County Council more, because at least we get something from East Lindsey. I believe if the county council took over, we would get nothing.
Thank you. Councillor Dennis.
Total agree with Councillor Kirk and Councillor Brooks on this. Absolutely agree. There's been 7 districts in this county of Lincolnshire since Roman times. For 2,000 years, there's been 7 districts, and there's 350 councillors, and all that money. It's ridiculous. That's just district councillors. But I do think that one devolutionary council, one would be no good. It just wouldn't work. I do think that if you diluted power down to Skegness Town Council, I believe that we've got a good council, we've got a town clerk that could manage that, and town councillors that could. But if it went to some of the parish councils that I work with at Croft, Thursby group of parishes, Eastborough Parish Council, it's ridiculous because they can't, they sit in little village halls, it would be very, very difficult for them. And I'm very concerned, as Councillor Brooks is and Councillor Kirk, that we would lose our local democracy here, the local touch. We get very little now. Everything seems to be Lincoln based as it is. And everything seems to be going to Lincoln. You get to Horncastle and it stops. And it's a big axe to grind. We East Lindsey, a long, long time, we've been thinking that, the coast gets nothing. That's what we get, nothing. Compared to what the rest of Lincoln, when have we had any good roads like bypasses this way, bypasses that way? Millions and millions of pounds spent. What we got from Fenland Laundry to the traffic lights. That's what they've done to us. They give us half a mile. The infrastructure doesn't come from county, and I do feel that I think there needs to be 3 districts myself. That's how I think it ought to work. I think it ought to work. Coastal strip, East Lindsey, Boston, South Holland. That's how I think it should work. Them 3 should work together. And that's what we need. I don't know, Councillor Kirk, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm led to believe, isn't it blocks of 300 or 400,000 people, or is it 250,000? Could you just enlighten me on that, Councillor Kirk?
Yeah, it appears that their preferred number is between 300 and 500,000 people to any unitary. All I would say is just be careful, Councillor Dennis, because if you go for something like an east-west split of the county to make it 2 unitaries, you put all the problems in the east and you put all the money in the west. So we just have to be careful of that. I think I would agree with you. Sorry, I'm sorry, I do apologise, I'm butting in there. But yeah, I agree with Councillor Dennis. It could be carved up much better than just one big unitary.
That's fine, Councillor Kirk. Rather than delay the meeting any times, it's good to come in straight away. Councillor Dennis, would you just like to come back at that one?
I concur with that. I'm very happy with that. I can see where he's coming from about the East Coast. It's just, it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be that the West gets it and the East doesn't. It just doesn't sit right with me. Sorry.
No, I think we know where he's coming from. Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not going to disagree with what people have said. I've been too long in as a councillor in local government now, nearly for 30 years now, and I've seen the bun fights between district and county. My concern is about where we are as a town council and what powers we will have in, as what we always say is local democracy, grassroots level. I do believe that we can take on more services for our community and residents. We've done so well as a council in providing these services, and I know that our community is well behind us as a town council. And I would like to see us go back to the glory days of Skegness Urban District Council. Maybe as a coastal strip with our partners, as what Councillor Dennis was describing, some of the parish councils that can't actually help themselves. Perhaps there is a role for us in future, and we need to actually get in touch with those parish councils and see if we can help, along with Mablethorpe and also areas of Boston that are deprived. Now, when we talk about deprivation, when our scores in deprivation, it's not me that's talking, it's government figures here that talk. Deprivation just doesn't talk about poverty, which we know we do have a lot of compared to other areas in England, but deprivation talks about access to public services, and that's what the score is based on. Access to public services. And that's where the deprivation figures come from, when those figures are put out. Now, if we're getting poor public services by Lincolnshire County Council, East Lindsey District Council at this present time, as well as our NHS partners, what if there's reconfiguration and it makes that deprivation worse? Where does that leave us as a community, as community leaders as well? And I don't want to be in that position, making things worse for our community than what they are now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Edgington.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a final point. I mean, speakers so far said they'd like to see more local democracy. So we want smaller authorities in a sense, because when you get bigger, you get more remote, etc. I mean, ironically, and I think Councillor Anderson's touched on this, prior to 1974, Lincolnshire had 3 county councils, and then the services which had been administered by the districts. Now you had a multitude of rural district councils and urban district councils. But I do feel that we must have a view on this, because there's a danger that we would be sidelined. And I think that we've got a lot going for us here. We're working together, and I think that we don't want to lose that impetus. So I do feel that we should consider coming up with some sort of response to put into the mix. Thank you.
Mayor, can I just come in? There is another issue here. From the report, you'll see that I have spoken to the Lincolnshire Association of Local Councils and to seek their advice on what impact it might have had. And like the districts, they only found out literally when the letter had been sent. I don't get any sense that any thought process has actually gone into what would happen to town and parish councils at this stage. But I am aware that since Councillor Walker left, we now haven't got a representative who can go to the Louth meetings and actually put forward this council's representations. So it might be prudent, we can do this within standing orders to appoint to a body as part of the discussion tonight, to actually appoint someone who can take on that role to take back the thoughts into that forum. The chief executive of Louth has said that from the very, very early discussions that she'd had, which were literally a day or so before the letter, had gone out in my paper, she said that she felt that there were a number of districts where towns haven't got representation because the parish council functions are run by the district authorities. So there are a number of towns where that's the case, and that they would have to have some sort of representation at least at town level, if not for the rural parishes. So I think it's quite important that council here has an input into those discussions and also gets the feedback so that it can be brought back to council, so that we know what's happening and what's being discussed by Louth.
Thank you. Councillor Sid Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we should, certainly I concur with the town clerk, and I think we need to choose a representative for Louth, Mr. Mayor. And that's a proposal. If somebody will second that, I think we do need to put a councillor on this Louth committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Steve Kirk.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I was thinking that we've had a good chat about this. We need to formulate some sort of a proposal, but certainly the feeling that I'm getting from fellow councillors that we're not overly opposed to unitaries. What we're opposed to is a single unitary. So I think our representation that we make needs to be that we're not dinosaurs. We don't really care who delivers the services, but as long as there is local accountable democracy and value for money for our residents, because I don't mind whether we have 3 or 4 unitaries or what we have. I just think we need to get a form of words that we're all happy with, that supports what we're saying, because I've got a sneaking feeling this will be going ahead no matter what we say. And, you know, I just got this horrible feeling it's being rushed through what appears so quickly. So there would be an interim council made up of the leaders and deputies of the districts, and the leader and deputy also of the county, is my understanding of, and then to hold elections in 2022. Well, that doesn't give you very long to get together all the functions of every district council, and Boston Borough Council included in that, and then divvy them up to the new council. So I think we need to make a representation sooner rather than later, and hopefully it will get listened to, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Anderson. Councillor Ty.
Sorry, can I
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry,
Sorry.
Councillor Anderson switched on now. Just one moment.
Sorry, Councillor Ty. Can I concur with Councillor Kirk has said, and the others? I think it's important that we do have representation on Lauk. I'm formally retired now, and I do have time on my hand, and I have that experience needed if the council wanted an experienced person that's not on the district or the county council, but only has concerns about Skegness. But it's up to the council to decide who their representation are. But we do need someone, you know, who's got the experience to put our views forward at Lauk, and also convey that message onto ministers who are going to make this decision in not the too distant future, as what Councillor Kirk has just said.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Tony Ty.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I was just going to concur with Councillor Kirk, but looking at this paperwork, and as we all know what has happened in the past with LCC, I do believe it could be down to being forced upon us to go with whatever they do. Thank you.
Breaking up there, Councillor Ty. Councillor Dan Kirk.
I'm happy to second the appointment of Councillor Anderson onto the Town Council's Lauk appointee. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak? So we have a proposer, Councillor Anderson, to go on to the board to represent us. We've got it seconded.
I could second that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. It's been proposed and seconded. Councillor Burnham.
No, I was voting.
Okay, we'll go to the vote then. Thank you. Can raise your virtual hands, please.
Could I just ask a question, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, yes, Councillor Kirk. Sorry, I see your hand flashing there.
It's difficult to know what I'm voting or asking a question. Just some clarity from the clerk. Is the recommendation to appoint a person as a representative with regards to the unitary authority, or is it to offer to suggest that we need to represent collectively in, I don't know, could you just clarify that, Mr. Clark, please?
The representative is to go on to the Lauk and be the council's representative on Lauk, and that would be to take any issues back through that forum. Often there are consultations that come out through the National Association that filter down through the Lincolnshire Association, and so whoever is representative would then form the conduit through which this council's views are taken to Lauk, and then equally information coming back the other way. And
yeah,
this would just be the issue being discussed is just one issue amongst the whole load.
Yeah, I understand specifically in relation to Lauk, but the recommendation for representation for the regards to the unitary authority, is that a separate decision?
No, I don't think so. I think the decision then, once the representative is on there, is for council to vote to agree what the council's position actually is. I've heard a lot of people speaking, and I think there's a lot of commonality between the approach. It just needs to be put, to the vote in a clear way, so that the appointed representative knows exactly what they're taking back to Lauk.
Thank you. So it's been proposed and seconded that Councillor Anderson to go on the group. So if you could always raise your virtual hands, please. That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Agenda item number 17.
Mayor, before we move on, have we got the clarity and the vote over what is actually to be said? Because I've heard the discussion saying that some are not opposed to a number of unitaries. There's some that would like it split in a certain way. There's some that would like a coastal strip. There's some that would, I think there's room for ambiguity at the moment. And I think in order that Councillor Anderson can clearly represent the council, I think we just need to ensure that there is clarity in that message. And also, if you wanted me to write to anybody, there needs to be clarity as well.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dankirk.
Thank you. Having sat back and listened to the conversation, yeah, I quite agree with the fact that just to summarise the understanding for the council, yeah, I think a single unitary, not a chance. Having multiple unitaries, I think the council from discussion would agree with that. Having a single coastal strip, I don't think the council agree to that, because as I think was it Councillor Steve Kirk mentioned, that we could end up with a coastal divide. Yeah, I agree with that analogy. I think there has to be like a east to west kind of split unitary of a couple or two or three. My understanding is that, and if I'm correct in that understanding, I'm happy to second that decision, that response.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I agree with the town clerk. I do need to know where we stand as a town council and what message you want me to take across to this important meeting, because at the end of the day, I don't want my message alone. It has to be the town council message as a whole, something that we have agreed with on where we want to move forward. So if we need to have that discussion now, so be it, or debate now, or if we have a special meeting, it's in your gift, Mr. Mayor, to have that debate so I can move forward with the town council's message. Thank you.
Councillor Kirk, Steve Kirk.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think all we need to do tonight, in all honesty, is just get a form of words that we would be happy to go if the town clerk was writing a letter that sums up how we feel, because one of the things I think he should be doing forthwith is actually writing to East Lindsey District Council expressing their concern, and writing to Lincolnshire County Council expressing the concerns. So I think we need some form of words, and I think for myself personally, and I think there might be some agreement, that I actually recognise that there is a strong argument for restructuring local government. And I think most of us would do, for the reasons I mentioned about people wanting to deal with the council and not caring who it is, which council, or where they're based. So I think there is a strong, I think we should recognise that there is a really strong argument for the restructuring of local government. But we do feel that a single unitary would not serve our residents well, and actually would work against the ideas of local democracy. We would welcome devolution of powers down to a smaller authority. So therefore, possibly if we would have multiple unitaries, that would be acceptable to us, but certainly a single Lincolnshire-wide unitary would be totally unacceptable. How does the council feel about that form of words? Does that sum up what we've been talking about?
Thank you. Councillor Dennis.
Yes, Councillor Kirk, I think it does. And I also think Councillor Anderson needs to go away and get a feel from Lauk. What other people around the county think, and bring that back to us, bring back their thoughts. You know, I think, you know, the way Councillor Kirk's put that's absolutely fine. And I think that the town clerk who can write a good letter needs to do that. But I think that Councillor Anderson needs to go to Louth and listen to what other people have got to say and bring that back to us, bring back their thoughts, as well as you know, us telling them what we want. Let's find out what other people want. Let's find out what their thoughts are, because that could be very conducive to where we want to be. And I think that would be good and open, and an open debate is what we need. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe that when Councillor Anderson was elected to the Lauk position, he was we were talking about going to Lauk and to see what the situation is there. So I believe that what we perhaps should do is get this down on the agenda for the next meeting and discuss it further. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. Mayor, can I just concur what people have said? I think this is an important issue regarding local democracy. And yes, I want to take a strong message from the council, this Skegness Town Council, about our community and what Councillor Dennis and others and Steve Kirk have said. Grassroots democracy, grassroots services are a must. We don't want to lose that, what we've gained over the past few years. So I want to send that message from us, not me, from us, in the most strongest possible terms in local government reorganisation. I don't disagree what Councillor Steve Kirk is saying. Restructuring is a good thing if it means saving money, not what councillors get in actual expenses, but in officers. If you take across the board in Lincolnshire, chief executives, what they get, okay, and all the things that go with the golden handshakes, etc. That vast amount of money that is spent on funding chief officers across Lincolnshire. That's what I believe what Boston Borough and East Lindsey were about, in actually trying to save money by having one chief exec across two councils and working collaboratively for the people and for value for money. So I think we don't lose sight, and I totally agree with Councillor Tony Tye that this is too important, not just to not have a good debate around where you want me and what you want me to say on your behalf.
Thank you.
Mayor, can I just come in? I'm concerned about the time scale, because obviously September has been mentioned by Lincolnshire County Council in terms of moving something forward. And I think if the elections in 2021 were to be cancelled, then I think that the decision making would have to take place certainly in the early autumn. There is a point which perhaps council may wish to add to any letter that I write, and that is about consultation, because as of today, we have had, as a town council, we have had no consultation. There has been stuff in the papers, there's been speculation floated around. We've seen a copy of the letter that's been written by Lincolnshire County Council. We've seen a response in the press from the leaders of the district councils, but we've actually had no consultation as such, and therefore the people of Lincolnshire and certainly the people of Skegness have had no consultation. So I know that there will be a process that is gone through, but I think in actually devising the scheme and the whole structure, we may wish to make representation that we do at least state it, whether or not we actually get it, state that we do expect some consultation on it, and to be able that consultation to actually influence the outcome.
Councillor Steve Kirk.
Yes. Thank you very much. I fear, picking on what Town Clerk just said, that there will be no consultation with us, because it will be seen both regionally and nationally that it doesn't affect parish councils, so we don't need to consult parish councils. Yes, you would like to think they would actually consult with the residents of Lincolnshire, but I've got a horrible feeling that may not happen either. I think we need to write that letter, and I think it needs to go off. And the Town Clerk's quite right. Let's put in there about proper, meaningful consultation. But I've got a sneaking feeling that we're talking about having future meetings and future debates. The leaders of the 7 districts have written to the Secretary asking for them to delay that September decision. But as of yet, I don't think they've had a response. Well, September is getting very, very close. And even the end of September is only 7 weeks away, isn't it? So I think we need to move quickly. And I don't think we've got time for more meetings and more debate, to be honest.
Thank you. Councillor Danny Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I totally agree with Councillor Steve Kirk. I think the actions of Martin Hills is the actions of a desperate man, and I think the government are likely to go with him because they will know how skint he is, or the council is. I just think that the timing, if you rush into this, it will be a pig's ear. If it's done properly, and everyone gets a say and it's consulted on properly, it can be very good for Lincolnshire, save us millions of pounds. But if you just rush into it, as Martin Hills is doing, because his wallet is empty, figuratively, not his personal wallet, the county council's, you're rushing in it just to trying to fill your wallet, I think is wrong. It needs to be thought out and done properly. And in September, like Steve Kirk, Councillor Kirk said, 7 weeks to the end of September, they're going to make that major decision. I just think that, you know, we need to get a letter off tomorrow saying that the timescales, there's no consultation, and it needs to be thought through properly before we make a pig's ear of the job.
Thank you. Councillor Mark Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I totally agree what's been said by Councillor Brooks and Councillor Kirk? I think that the letter needs to be sent to the Town Clerk, to the local government minister, regarding what Councillor Kirk has said. If we send it to the County Council, we can send copies, obviously, to the County Council and the District Council. But I think what will happen if it gets to the County Council's chief executives and the leader's desk, it will get binned in the bin. And I hate to think that would happen at East Lindsey's District Council as well, but it might do. So I think we need to send that to the relevant minister who's making the decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dennis, please.
Yeah, just one thing to say. I think what Martin Hill's doing, I don't think it's to fill his short of money. I think it's a power grab, and I think it's totally undemocratic. Basically, undemocratic. That's my big issue with it. If you don't consultate the people, it's undemocratic. It's totally wrong.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak on this? So I think your Town Clerk has got, you've got an idea of the letter that the councillors want. Have you? Town Clerk?
Mayor, I think, I mean, I've got a gist of the conversation, which is basically there's not an opposition to local government reorganisation, but it needs further consultation. Well, it needs to have consultation, and it needs to be done in a proper way, and that certainly this council feel that there should be a close ties in terms of local democracy to any new structure, and that that a single unitary authority across Lincolnshire simply wouldn't achieve that.
Thank you. Councillor Dennis?
Totally agree with the Town Clerk. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak? So we are going to the vote, Town Clerk, to send this letter. Councillor Tony Tye. Councillor Tony Tye.
Yes, I totally agree. They get the letter off and then let's see where we are. I mean, I totally agree with everything that's been said tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to send a letter then, Town Clerk, stating that. So do we need to go to the vote for that?
Mr. Mayor, can I just clarification regarding the letter? Can I just say that the letter be sent to the District Council, County Council and the local government minister, and of course Lauk, copied into Lauk as well. Thank you.
Okay, so that's a proposal, Councillor Anderson, is it?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Councillor Kirk?
I was only raising my hand to say yes, I'm happy to second that.
Okay, thank you. These hands are flashing slow and fast. And okay, so we know what we voted for. Proposed and seconded. All in favour, please raise your virtual hand. They've flashed up quick. That's carried. Thank you. Agenda item number 17, grant application attached. To consider the grant application from the Citizens Advice Bureau in Skegness for £100. Councillor Dick Edgington. Councillor Edgington.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. I would propose that we support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dennis.
I second that.
Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. On transparency, it does meet our criteria, does it? Just a question to the town clerk.
Town clerk, please.
The grant, as we've had discussions with the Citizens Advice Bureau, it would be specifically spent on stationery, etc., within the Skegness branch. The as you know, they have to provide their accounts. The Citizens Advice Bureau is a cross Lincolnshire organisation that is then split down into Lindsay and different areas. We have had the accounts in, and yes, as far as the general criteria, we can support this. It was supported last year, but it is a relatively small amount of money that is being requested by the local branch. It's just to help keep that local branch, administratively running.
Thank you. So it's been proposed and seconded. All in favour, please show. It's carried. Thank you. Agenda item number 18. Notice of postponed election attached. To note, the valid request to hold an election to fill the casual town councillor vacancy has been received, and that the date for the election has not yet been fixed. Councillor Tony Tye.
Sorry, Mayor, I forgot to take my hand down.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Burnham.
Sorry, I've done the same.
Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, move it be noted, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Barrett. Okay, thank you. All in favour, please show. Okay, thank you. That's carried. We've come to the end of our meeting for tonight. We'd like to thank everybody for attending, and those that are watching out there. Should you have any concerns, then please contact us on the Skegness Council. All the information is available on the website. So I thank you, and I'll say good night.
Yeah.